You can be exuberant and extroverted and sharp talking, but sales is not that. Sales is a process. The ability to set up a repeatable system.
On this episode of Financially Incorrect, we get into the business of sales. We speak to Kelvin, a sales expert who has worked his way up from a graduate trainee at Unilever to the former commercial director at KO and now running the Kenya School of Sales. Hear about his 3 key sales principles.
1, your biggest power as a salesperson is your pipeline. 2, relationship management should now be called relationship directorship. And the third point is...
We talk about his upbringing and where he learned about money.
I was going to high school and it was not a cheap school. So what did my dad do? So turns out that when he was a young man, he had bought shares from some companies and he was coming to liquidate those shares.
Hear about how his business idea earned him a 5 million shilling contract before he was done with university.
We took that deal and I went and sold it to ACCA. That, hey, do you want students to have an intimate relationship with ACCA? Instead of pelting them with this information about ACCA, why don't you get them to do a business challenge? That's probably your easiest way to convert them to do ACCA. The proposal was for 5 million shillings.
Hear about how his salary moved from 150,000 a month to 500,000 in a week.
The CEO of Unilever in East Africa at the time, he was asking, why are you leaving? I explained to him that I want to be a business person and Unilever is not providing me the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, but someone else is and she's paying me well for it. And so he told me, I understand, I don't have a job for you, but if a job does come up, I will call you for it. So he called me.
A week later.
And I was like, I know you left last week. Najua hata laptop usharudisha, but I want you back. And Mark was like, how much was Mercy paying you? I was like, I'll make it 500,000.
And find out how he negotiated for his remuneration as a sales director.
If I really wanted to run my own business, there was something about working in a local Kenyan context.
Yes.
And so African Originals felt like the best opportunity. So I left Unilever. I was offered shares, which was fantastic. I got a decent salary bump. It was the first time I got to like $1 million plus shillings in salary.
Hear about arguably the world's greatest salesman, Joe Girard, who sold over 1,400 vehicles, averaging about 6 cars per day. And here, 3 of his key sales principles. 17% of jobs in Kenya are sales related. If you're in sales or have any sales functions to your job, this is a story for you. Everybody, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. It's a Friday, so we have a personal money story. We're really getting into it in 2026 now. I have with me today, we're going to talk about an industry I don't think we have touched on. We may have been on the periphery, but haven't really gone into, and this is the sales space. So I have with me today Kelvin Kuria, who is a fractional commercial director of Green Heart in Kilifi. He's also the founder and CEO of the Commercial Club in Kenya. And he also runs the school. I forgot the school.
Kenya School of Sales.
Kenya School of Sales, yes. Also running the school, Kenya School of Sales. So we're going to be talking about the sales space. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you very much, Santi Sana. Lovely to be here.
We have a new, it's an old, but it's a new sign. We changed, there was like a lot of reflection that was coming on the sign that we had before. Yeah. So we changed it last week.
I like the blue hue.
And then we got this set in, this edition in 2026. And we also have like a blue light now that's behind you.
Oh, look at that.
So, yeah.
So is it because money is blue?
I don't know actually where the teal came from. Oh, it was informed by FX Pesa.
Yes, because FX Pesa has a blue thing going on. Yeah.
But I like it. I mean, I like it and I think it works well. Anyway, to start our podcast, every episode I have, I start with an obscure question. My first question is, who would be your favorite dinner guest in 2026 and why?
Favorite dinner guest?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I would say Peter Ndegwa.
Peter Ndegwa.
As cliche as it sounds.
Okay.
The reason why, should I tell you why?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you actually asked why.
I did, yeah.
So it's lovely to see an African Kenyan guy at the height of his career running a business as big and now, quite honestly, as controversial as Safaricom is. I mean, they have gone full on. There is a lot of, especially the current story that's currently running.
Yeah, with the sale of...
I would love to sit with him and ask, what are you how are you thinking through the sale as a starting point, right? You've gone into Ethiopia. How is it going? And the reason why Peter Ndego is a good guy for me to talk to is because he is in every sense of the word an exemplification of what a sales guy can do well. Like he is at the pinnacle of his career. He did sales, right? And so he's one of us. He belongs to our sales community, right? And so I really would like to get into it with what are your biggest sales tactics? What did you fail at? How did you fail? What did you learn? How are you running your sales teams today? Safaricom is, biggest corporate in this part of the world. What are the biggest challenges you're facing? Because I would like the organizations you're running to get to that scale at some point, right? So who better to talk to
than him? Yeah. If I ask lunch guest, does the person change?
Yes, because dinner is longer.
Yeah.
I would imagine lunch would sort of be an hour conversation.
Yeah.
There is a lovely lady called Wandia Gishuru, who's the CEO of Vivo.
Yes.
I haven't met her personally, but I think she's phenomenal. What she's done with that brand over a period as short as, Vivo hasn't been around for 100 years, right? It's not an old corporate. She is gone into the US. She is empowering women. She's doing local manufacturing. And because it's a lunch, and she seems like she's very busy, so I'm sure an hour would be fine of a lunch. I think that would be a really hot conversation to have.
Okay. That's interesting. I guess I would think the same. I would think a lunch conversation would be shorter than a dinner conversation.
Yeah, than a dinner conversation.
So as I was sort of trying to prep for this episode and trying to get into understanding sales better from like a technical perspective.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out who the greatest salesman
nice.
in the world.
Did you find out?
I did find out. Actually, but let me see if we have the same answer. What's your answer?
I think the greatest salesman in the world would be, I have two.
Yeah.
I think Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Because if you think about the time in which he lived and the amount of work he had to do to convince a whole generation of people to actually stop doing something that was so important to them. I mean, he was sort of pivotal to ending slavery at the time, or to the beginning of.
Right.
And that's a sales job, right? If you think about it, because what sales is taking an idea, a belief, and being able to translate it into value to someone else, and actually having them want to do what you are influencing behavior, right? And I do think influencing behavior at that level, at that scale, we still talk about him to date. Yeah, which I think is So an ancient name for me would be Abraham Lincoln. I do have a new age.
Okay.
Current
salesman,
biggest salesman or woman, and that would have to be hate him or love him. But Elon Musk has done a brilliant job. He's a cliche guy, but he's the richest man in the world, and he's done a lot of that by selling deeply difficult ideas of, change the civilization, let's move, humans to the moon, etc. And I do think being able to sell, for example, EVs, electronic vehicles, if you think about what is done with Tesla, now there's a lot more companies coming up. But for you to be able to sell big, bold, audacious visions like that, you need to be a super brilliant salesperson.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I must admit, I didn't open up my scope that wide. I was just looking at
just
salesperson. Who was a salesperson? So my answer but no, it's not underwhelming because it's a really serious guy. Because his name is Joe Girard. I hope I'm not butchered that. He was born Joe Samuel Girard D. Yeah. An American, born in Detroit, Michigan. He died in 2019, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, he held the Guinness World Book of Records title for World Greatest Salesman for 12 years consecutively. And his best year, he was a car salesman in selling Chevrolets in Michigan.
And his record has not been beaten.
And his peak year was in 1973 when he sold 1,425 vehicles, averaging about 6 cars per day. Yeah. And he didn't do any bulk sales. So they were all individuals. Yeah. And what makes it even more impressive is that during that period, apparently, dealerships would do up to 1,000 cars a year. So he independently sold more. Was selling more.
And to make it even more impressive, right? This is pre-internet.
Yes.
Pre-social media.
Yeah.
pre-personal brand building of I'm a big car sales dealer and he had no TikTok account.
Exactly.
Of it. So he is a classic relationship driven sales guy.
So in fact, now from that, I went into looking at like what were his techniques.
Yeah.
And so he had 3 that I wanted to sort of point out and ask you what yours are.
Yeah.
So he had one called the Law of 250.
Yeah.
Where he said, essentially his theory is that everybody has a network of about 250 people that they invite to their weddings or their funerals.
Yeah.
And if you pissed someone off, essentially, you're cutting yourself off the potential network of 250 people.
Yeah.
One other thing he did was he called them I like you cards, where every month he sent handwritten cards to his customer list just saying, I like you. And the third thing he did was he had a thing called the Bird Dog Network, where he built a referral network. He called them the Bird Dogs. Essentially, this was barbers, bank tellers, who he paid a commission of $25 for every lead they sent that resulted in a sale.
Wow.
So I'm curious
So
what are your 3, as I guess a person who's a sales practitioner.
From a sales perspective. So I actually have 3. One is your biggest power as a salesperson is your pipeline. I'll explain. 2 is relationship management should now be called relationship directorship. I'll explain as well. Mm-hmm. And the third point is offer more value than you're being paid for. Mm-hmm. So first one is about pipeline building, right? If you think about what every salesperson does, if you're selling glasses or shoes, whatever it is that you're selling, right? Mm-hmm. The law of averages is that you probably will have to talk to 10 people to find that one person that is going to buy, mm-hmm. right? So effectively, your role is not to sell to the one person. Your job is to find the 10 and to pitch to all 10 of them, right? Now, one is me simplifying it. But if you have a business that needs to, if you're a business like ours that is in training and you need to train one corporate, imagine how many corporates you'll have to talk to. If you need to train one corporate every day for 20 working days, so those are 20 corporates that you're training, and I'm sort of just generalizing this. So if you need to train 20 guys at a conversion rate of 10%, how many guys do you need? You need 200 live active conversations for those to actually at any given time for those to translate to 20 actual leads, clients that you're talking to. Yeah. Which effectively means that your job is to do 2 things. Fine, get the one, but really your biggest job is to build the pipeline, is to make sure that at the top of your pipeline you always have leads flowing in. And I do think that's probably the most important and the most difficult job of a sales guy. Mm-hmm. Because effectively what you're doing is that every single day you close a client today and tomorrow you're chasing like nothing happened. Mm. Those are the best salespeople. You close your biggest deal now and you are at lunch with someone who's never met you saying, hi, nice to meet you. My name is Kelvin. We do sales training, as an example. So that's the first one from my pipeline perspective. What was my second one?
This is the first time on this podcast. There was a directorship, relationship management should be directorship.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes. Directorship. Now, let me explain. What relationship management alludes to, if you think about, everybody says sales about relationship management, it's about managing relationships. It alludes to a very reactive, I'm not in control kind of vibe from a relationship perspective. The job to be done is to think as a relationship director, where your job is to really be a strategic input into this conversation. Mm-hmm. So let me explain. You have a client, you're having a conversation with a client, and you're trying to close that client, right? Your role is to almost direct that conversation. The best salespeople, your car sales guy, would have been directing every part of that conversation with the person who's looking to buy a car. And if you think as a relationship director versus a relationship manager, it's a very different realm of thinking. Because as a relationship director, you bring value, you bring information, you bring ideas, you bring change. You're driving. You think of yourself as a primary owner of the relationship, and you think as if the buck stops with you, even when it doesn't. Mm-hmm. That is what I call relationship directorship. The third one's about value versus price. Yeah. And my view on value versus price is a lot of people are stuck on how much does it cost, or how much do I get, right? But if you flip that question and ask, how much do I give? How much value am I giving for the price I'm getting? And the rule of the thumb for me is if the value is X, if you can give 3X value, then you will forever be in business. Mm. If they're paying you $2,000 to do a training, in your head, think as if this is a $6,000 training and deliver $6,000 training. Get paid $2,000, that's fine. But deliver $6,000 training, as an example, right?
Yeah.
Because effectively, if you do those three things, you have a really beautiful pipeline. It's deep, right? So you're now lacking. You're never at a point where you're thinking you have one big client, and if they don't show up, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Number two is that you're on top of those relationships. Effectively, you're directing those relationships and conversations. And when you do get work, you actually show up and deliver 3x value. So if they pay you $1,000, that's fine, but deliver in your head $3,000 worth of value.
Okay.
I think you'll forever be in business if you do that. If you
Makes
think
sense.
of it that way. Yeah.
Makes sense. And I'm as we get into your story, I'm really keen to see how some of these things came into play in your career.
Yeah.
But let's start it. So where does your money story begin? What kind of household did you grow up?
Where does my money story? So when I was thinking about this story, I was like, did I grow up in a humble background? I don't know what humble means, but I did. I grew up in a middle income household. Which was at the time
actually, let me ask you, what in your definition? Because you had this debate
about humble versus
last year. No, not even humble. Last year, and I was trying to tell the people who are here at Financially Incorrect that their definition of the average middle class in Kenya is not what they think the average middle class in Kenya is. So what for you is the definition?
I think it's contextual.
Yeah.
Contextual in the context of I grew up in a village called Kianoe, in a small little town called Subukia. Subukia is in between Nakuru and Nyahururu, so it's in Rift Valley. And both my parents were teachers of, primary schools. And within the context of the society I lived in, we lived a good life. We lived in a small little stone house. We had water and electricity, and we had 3 meals a day. And I went to a nice private primary school from when I was in class 5 to class 8, and I went to a nice high school. And I never lacked school fees. So in that context, I really lived a middle-class life. Right. We weren't super rich, but we weren't super poor, right? But if you took that same family and put them in Langata, or in Lunda, or in Westlands, we would probably not have been seen as very middle class. Right, it would probably be on the lower end of the middle class. Which is why I think it's contextual.
That's fair.
Makes sense.
So when do you first interact with money?
So first interaction with money, my own money?
No, even if it's someone else's money.
Someone else's
when you start
money.
Understanding that there's this thing called money in this world.
So I was in high school, and my dad was. I was going to high school. I just finished primary school, and I went to a primary school called Visions Preparatory Academy, which was a nice. And I got 392 marks out of 500, and I was quite excited about it. And I was, so my parents are Catholics, so I was raised as a Catholic. So I was called to, we went and interviewed to a school called St. Joseph Minor Seminary in Molo. It's this at the time it was this lovely, but very strict seminarians. It's actually St. Joseph Minor Seminary, which means it is a Catholic school. We went to church 3 times a day. We were taught by priests. The headmaster was a priest. The deputy principal was a priest. So think very Catholic, right? So very, very strict. And it was one of the best schools at the time in that part of the world. And it was not a cheap school. In the context of school fees was above your normal schools, right? Yes. And so my dad at the time, when we got us, so I went and interviewed and got an invitation letter or whatever.
To join the school.
And my dad at the time, I think the school fees at the time was like when in Form 1 you have to go in with
everything,
a box, uniform. We were even told to bring slashers and djembes, right? That entire bill came to about 70,000 shillings. On school fees and shopping, then add pocket money, you are talking 75K, which to my parents was a lot of money because my dad would have been at a salary of maybe 50,000 shillings a month, right? At best. So what did my dad do? He took a trip to Nairobi from Subukia, and that's a long trip. That's a day's trip, right? On public transport, etc. Akakuja kutafuta pesa. He came to look for money. I'm like, okay, so what exactly, where do you go? What do you do? When you get to Nairobi, where do you go to? So it turns out that when he was a young man, 10 years before that, he had bought shares from some companies and he was coming to liquidate those shares because he knew that one day his son will be going to school, and he had seen this moment 10 years before,
Right.
right? So he had shares, number one. Number two, he belonged to a SACCO. And he had a bit of deposits and dividends. You know how SACCOs pay dividends. I was actually telling you guys just before here, I came from my SACCO, actually.
Yes.
And the reason, part of it, anyway, I'll tell you why the SACCO story is important. So he had dividends that he was coming to cash in. That's how he paid for my high school education, right? And from that on, I was very clear that I will join a SACCO because it sounded like the most natural, logical thing to do, and I'll buy shares. Because one day,
you will need
my son will be going to high school.
And you'll need to...
Yeah, and I will need to liquidate an asset, right?
Okay.
And I think that was sort of the first time I really got into terms with money and how you make it, how you save it, how you invest it. Because if you think about that story, everything about savings and investments sits there, right? And so fast forward today, one of my biggest lessons and one of the biggest things I've done for myself from a financial perspective is put money in a SACCO. I've always borrowed from a SACCO, not a bank. And I would never have done it were it not for my dad.
Okay. I mean, so it sounds like at a very young age, you have the privilege of understanding money.
Yeah.
I'd say from the different people I've had who sat on this seat, I mean, very early on, you have a good idea of where money is. Does that impact at all the decisions you make to begin when you're becoming an adult to try and make money?
Yes, 100%. So, as I said, I did not grow up in a very rich household, but we were not very poor, we're not very rich either. So money was important, right? So we had 3 meals, but they were not grand meals, right? We dressed well, but we didn't dress in the most expensive, styles, etc. And therefore, we always knew that the most important thing you want to do for yourself is make money. As a matter of fact, my dad had this lovely thing he used to tell us, which is, stop chasing girls. All you need to do is chase money instead. Yeah. The girls will come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dad, I made money.
Hakuna mkate ngumu mbele ya chai.
Hakuna mkate ngumu, exactly. Yeah. So where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is we grew up at a time when there was just enough. There was just barely. There was just enough to sort of make do. And I sort of always knew that one day I want to live a life better. I wanted to live in a bigger house, and we did. My dad didn't drive a car, so I wanted to drive my own car. I always looked around and saw, like, there's a golf club in Nakuru, and so I knew a family that were members in that
you
golf
play
club.
Golf now?
I do. I play golf. I'm a big golfer.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why is, to be honest, because there was a family that was like the richest family in our town. The dad in that family played golf. And my God, how cool was it? Like, he would drive in the boot of his car, there would be a big golf kit. And he would take his family to the golf. Oh, I was like, listen, one day, this really is how I want to live life. Yeah, so now I'm very happy that I get to do that now.
Okay, so at 18, or that adult period, what decisions do you make to try and make more money? Do you go to university? Do you start business?
Yeah, so did 3 things. Told myself, I was told that the biggest thing you can do for yourself is get a grade that is good enough to go to university. And so when I went to high school, I had one goal. Get a grade. I did not care what I will go do in campus. I did not care that I'm going to do medicine or law. It didn't matter. I had 2 goals. One is to go to university, and to go to university in Nairobi. Not anywhere else. I didn't want to go to a university in any other town. I wanted to be a job, help, sponsored student in a university in Nairobi, right? Because I had sort of been socialized to believe that if you go to university, then your opportunities open up. And true, they did. They actually do open up, right? So, and because I knew that definitely then links to the amount of money you make, right? So I studied like crazy. I was the only thing I did in high school. You know how people I listen to people's stories about how nice their high school life was. They went for funkies and they had girlfriends and oh my God, and they would write. I had none of that because I knew the only way to come out of this town called Subukia and to live a good, comfortable life where money is not a problem, then I had to go to campus. And I knew the only one thing to do is to study. So that's all I did. Yeah.
So what do you then decide to study at university?
So what then happens after that, right? So finish high school. I got a good grade. I got an A. It was an A minus. It was, you know those A minuses that are.
Yeah, I've come to learn there's a big distinction.
There's 100%. As a matter of fact, I said A and I was like, no, it's not an A, Kelvin. It's an A minus. Be honest with yourself. So I got an A minus. Was called to Kenyatta University to do BCom. Happy. Two of my biggest goals were met.
And you're getting help.
And I'm getting help.
Government sponsored.
And I'm government. Everything I wanted, I got.
Yeah.
And so I spent 2 years, because then we used to spend 2 years before we come to campus. So I spent 2 years in, so I was taken to a college in Nakuru to do CPA. So I did CPA all the way from section 1, accounting from section 1 to section 5, which was probably one of the most other important money thing that I learned, because CPA is accounting, right? Yes. They teach you very complicated stuff on debit, credit, financial management, etc. But at the base of it, you learn how to manage money. There is an input and there's an output. There's a debit, there's a credit, right? You cannot spend what you don't have. You need to budget, etc. So by the time I was landing in KU, I was a section 5 student. Okay. Which is in the world of economics and of accounting and study, it's pretty advanced actually. Yes. So by the time I was going into first year, and it actually affected how I lived my life in campus. Because my first year of campus was a repeat of everything I had learned in CPA. So I didn't really have to go to class much. My elder cousin was in campus. His name is Francis. So Francis Francis was in campus, he was doing BCom as well. So I sort of had a bit of, he had shown me the way. Right. And he was running a small business in campus. He was selling calculators, memory disks, flash disks, that stuff, that electronic stuff. And it was actually a brilliant business, but he was in 4th year, I was in 1st year. So he was exiting campus. He needed someone to inherit his business. So he taught me very quickly how to do the business, which was you go to Kamukunji or you go to River Road. These are the suppliers you talk to. This is the biggest. So we had a list of things that students need. And the thinking there is, you're a 1st year student, you've come from Subukia, you need a calculator, where do you find it? You've never been to Nairobi, right?
So you can't say go to textbook center.
You can go to what is textbook center. Yeah. So if someone came to you as a student and told you, hey, this is a calculator, I'll charge you 750 shillings for it, at the comfort of your class, your next door neighbor in class is selling you. So I always had a bag full of calculators, memory cards, flash disks. At some point, we expanded that portfolio into phones and laptops, etc. But that's actually how my cousin Francis and I, that's how we got by. Okay. In campus. And
so roughly, do you remember how much you would be making? And what were your money habits at the time?
So 100%, yeah. So I lived in a student hostel. The average amount of money you needed to live through a day in campus was you wake up in the morning, you have tea and 3 or 4 mandazis. That's like 20 bob, right? You needed 20 shillings of airtime. So you're 40 shillings in. You needed at least another 30 bob of lunch. How much is that? 70 bob? Yes. And you need another 30 shillings for dinner. So 100 bob. $1 a day is actually those days literally
you're $1 a day.
So literally we're borderline poverty. So we lived on $1 a day in KU. There was a nice, beautiful shopping center in KU called KM. Shout out to KU guys. Yeah. And so KM was sort of like a shopping center that was actually developed to business people to serve university students. So we lived up at 150 shillings. You're balling, my friend. If you can afford.
And how much is the government giving? How much?
So the government gave us that. So my help was worth, I think, 37,000 shillings, if I remember correctly. And how they would split it is they would take 4K. So it was at 7K 35K for 2. Okay, so first let me take 2 steps back. Help gave you a number between 35 and 50 or 55. Some people even got 60K, depending on the assessment of your need. Yes. So I think they assessed my need and said, this guy has two parents needing, and he will give you the lower off. Yeah. They gave me 35K, but they would take 4K of that and give it to the school directly. Every term. So 35 minus, so they would split the 35 into 2, 17,500. And 17,500, 4K would be sent straight to school for school fees. So you'd get in your account 13,500 shillings, or maybe 13,004. It was like 13,350. Right. Ukitoa bank charges, etc. Yes. 13,350 is, if you divide that by 100, is money enough to live you 130 days. But so I was, if you think about from a base lifeline perspective, it was fine.
Yes.
But
and then there's the extra money that you were making.
And then all the extra money that I was making, right? So I was living an above average lifestyle in campus, to be honest, right? So I wasn't eating 20 shillings lunches, because let me tell you how much money I used to make. A calculator cost me 450. And it was those nice original calculators, the Casio, exactly, right? So it cost me at the time a good original calculator, because I had already learned that, if you buy a fake one, then you're fucked, because she will notice that it's fake 2 months later and you're still classmates.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that it's an original calculator. Anyway, so it cost me 500 bob. I would sell it for 750. And I was a first year. So all I needed to do was sell one calculator a day. And I'm 250 shillings in profit.
Yes.
And also I learned a lot of stuff like inventory management, because this is what I used to do, right? So first I used to go and buy stock and keep it in my bag, in my hostel. Then I noticed I'm already incurring inventory running costs. And Nairobi is 30-40 minutes away from KU. It's not far, right? As a matter of fact, at the time, if you took a 10 shillings bus to Githurai and another 10 shillings bus in the morning, there was a window at which it would cost you 20 shillings
to be able
to be in CBD. And another maybe 50 bob. So 70 shillings you're in Nairobi and back, right? So I figured, if you give me your order for a calculator today, I'll tell you, let me rush to my hostel. And can I give it back to you? Can I give it to you tomorrow? I don't have the calculator in my hostel. That I'll tell you, unaweza nipea deposit. So there was out of the 750. If you can give me like, unaweza nipea tu 500, and then the 250 you will give me when I deliver, right? Effectively, she's given me
the money for the
money to buy the calculator. All I needed was 70 bob on top. So a lot of my business learning skills, as a lot of what I do today is I don't sell calculators anymore.
Yes.
but the logic of how to sequence deals and how to sequence money making, I learned a lot of that from there. So calculators was good business, but the biggest business was two things. You know those burners, electric cookers that students use?
Yes.
Where did you go to school?
In University of Nairobi.
So you're in main campus. So you lived in. So
I was living at home.
Okay, you're sort of the cool kid. Must be nice.
No, ask me a question and I have answered. The people in the room here are reacting. Did you live in the hostel?
Yeah.
Because he was also in Parkland.
Oh, he did as well.
He lived in the hostel.
So the stories I'm telling, are they resonating?
But I know
full on. But now these kids that had their own bedroom at home, were you picked and dropped?
No, I won't answer that question. The truth is, I drove.
Oh, look, for real?
For real.
And what are you doing running a financially incorrect podcast? What's wrong? You guys have a hiring problem. You drove to school?
I drove to school.
I have a few more additional
You can ask me off camera.
So let me tell you how it works in hostels.
Yeah.
So you join uni.
Yeah.
And you're bundled in a hostel, maybe 2 of you, 3 of you, 4 of you, a number. So, some hostels even had 8 guys, which is really just bunk beds. It's almost like a dormitory, to be honest. But you cook for yourself, because cooking for yourself is cheaper, right, than eating in restaurants.
Yeah.
Because if you went and bought 50 shillings worth of ingredients, that's probably 2 meals as opposed to 1 meal in a restaurant.
Yeah.
But for you to cook yourself, you need a gadget to cook, right? And in KM, they used to sell these really dangerous things that you'd have to put into the socket.
Yeah.
Right? They are literally wires, right? And that wire is connected to a heating coil. So literally what you're doing is that you're moving power from
electricity,
from a socket into, and it's naked power. I mean, 100,000 things can go wrong.
Yeah.
You could pour water on it and just, you're done. So what we did, it was an obvious opportunity, right? So we went and found a supplier who had these lovely, nice looking power burners. So you still fix it to electricity, but it had a cooker. It had like, think, you from Parklands. Think your hot stove, right?
Yes.
So you know how your burner today has a hot burner.
Yes.
Yeah. So think that burner on a separate thing.
Yes.
So you either had a single burner or a double burner. Single burners cost you 1,000 shillings. Cost me 500 bob to buy. double banners cost you 2,000 bob, cost me 1,000 bob to buy. All I needed to do was sell 1 or 2 double banners a week, and I was done, because I would make 1,000 shillings from selling double banners. Phones and laptops were a whole different deal, but there weren't many of us buying phones and laptops, and therefore that was sort of a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity. And I don't think my targeting was done well. I think my marketing still needed a bit of work, because I wasn't finding those customers nicely. But banners, electric kettles, cookers, etc. were really good money, right? So that was my first interaction with actual money in first year, right? But then what happened is in second year is actually realized that, okay, to be honest, when you've done it for a bit, the 250 it's the trips to Nairobi and back start to be a bit much, right? But also now I have started interacting with business people. The business community in Nairobi knows me. I have relationships with my suppliers in town, etc. And I joined an organization called ISEC. Were you in ISEC?
Yes.
Well, you are in ISEC.
Yes,
you look like an ISEC.
I was. Do I? I was in ISEC.
You have like ISEC vibe. So I did.
Yeah,
I joined ISEC. I went on exchange to Dar es Salaam.
I never went on exchange. I wanted to, but I never.
Oh, is it?
I wasn't able to.
Okay. Yeah. It was a lovely experience. ISEC taught me. So now, everything I'm telling you is very juakali, right? You needed a bit of sharpening and packaging. I needed a bit of packaging myself as well. And so ISEC is really, literally, I think, where I then got into terms with people who are well-dressed and who spoke proper English and who had PowerPoint presentations. And there were students like me. And they had, ISEC had a whole leadership organization. So I had a boss in second year, first semester, right? I had a job description and I had a role and KPIs. So I sort of transitioned out of this very juakali transition. I was still doing it, but I now had employed somebody. So when I needed to do the rounds, I had introduced a dude who was a friend of mine to all my suppliers, and I'd introduced him to. So I was like I was a sales manager.
Yes.
With a sales team. Yeah. And so I still sold calculators, but I was no longer involved in. I wasn't running around, so I could then spend time in ISEC. And ISEC now taught me how to form full mutual relationships, how to sell to corporates. Because I was in my first job, I was in finance and admin. So I was a finance guy who was responsible for doing the budget and trying to find sponsorship from corporates to give us some of that money. You know how you have an event coming up and therefore please sponsor the event, etc. And that's actually why my first company was born. Because what I did is we did a big event. I still remember it today. It's called Financial Freedom Conference. Happened on the 10th of March 2012. I was a second year student and I was the president of the committee. So, ISEC has OCs, right? Organizing committees. I was the president of the committee. We made so much money. We had like corporate sponsors. We had 500 people that came to the event. We charged event attendance fees. It was 50 shillings per student. And we gave them certificates. But how much does it cost to print a certificate? It's like 10 shillings. So you're 40 shillings in. We made money. That's when I actually realized that there is actually an opportunity of making money outside of calculators. And it's a lot more money because we must have made like 100K. Of course, not us, but the organization. ISEC made 100,000 shillings. And I thought, okay, why do I have to do it for ISEC? Why can't I do this myself? So 2 months later, I started a company called Meyous, MEYOUS. It was like me, you, and us. Yes. 3 words put together to form a name.
Yes.
That's all I could come up with at the time. And our tagline was, our business is to empower yours. So we started, I started an events management company, university student activations in campus. And my biggest selling point to corporates was I'm a student. So I know my students well. So when we went into ACCA and we were talking to, ACCA, the accountancy body, who were one of our biggest clients at the time, because I wanted students to do ACCA, and they needed an entry point into campus. So when we went to ACCA and told them, hey, we can do an event for you. So you just show up and make a presentation. The legwork of how many students, where we find them. You want them in a room at 2 p.m. We'll have 50 of them in a room at 2 p.m. You bring your sales guy to come and talk to them. It worked like magic. So all of a sudden now, my calculator business completely, fully transitioned it out to someone else. And I started running Meyous. As a CEO, I had employees. We had fully running contracts.
And this is while you're second year,
This is second year in campus, right? So I was very busy. So ran Meyous second year, third year. At the height of Meyous, because when I was in that year, Unilever, I went to do an internship at Unilever as a marketing intern. And while I was in Unilever, they released Unilever has these competitions they called Idea Trophy.
Yes.
Because Unilever wanted to brand themselves as an employer brand, as an employer of choice in campus, and the easiest way to do is to give university students an opportunity of working with Unilever. So you see what we are, which I thought was brilliant. So anyway, it was a business competition, typical business competition. You put yourself in groups of 3, and you answer questions. You put together a business plan. You go defend it. You go through first stage, second, and if you won, they took you to some place, South Africa, Singapore, etc. They give you iPads. It was, for us, it was pretty cool. I mean, think you're a third-year student, and you have an iPad which has been given to you, and you've been flown. So we won in Kenya. We were called Team Nexus with a lovely gentleman friend of mine called John and Jackie. And Team Nexus, we were flown to Singapore. I was in third year. We came back. Now I have a full understanding. I've worked for corporate. I was an intern there. So I had started to understand the intricacies of marketing correctly. I used to be an intern under a lovely lady called Carol in Blueband. So we did a whole campaign. I was now interacting with agencies that were running Unilever marketing at the time. Remember, I'm running my own agency.
Yes.
So I was learning what I thought was world-class agency management without having to pay for it. So we actually built very robust systems. Came back and Unilever became my client because Unilever, we won Idea Trophy 2.
Yes.
They launched Idea Trophy 3 and they wanted more students to get involved in Idea Trophy. I went back to them and told them, hey, I run a company called Mayas. I know Idea Trophy because we've won. It's only natural that you give me this job. They gave us a job, cut us a really nice check.
What's the check? What are the check sizes?
So the check sizes at the time. So this Idea Trophy job, I remember very well. It was for 750,000 shillings. And it was because we were charging them 100,000 shillings per event. And you were meant to do 6 events. And then the 150K on top was for admin and all of that stuff, travel, accommodation, etc. I mean, 100,000 shillings for an event in campus, would probably have spent 25K at best. Because what's your cost?
Yeah, margins are really good.
Margins are fantastic, right? So we probably made 300K on that deal, right? Let me tell you the interesting piece. The interesting piece is we took that deal, that entire Idea Trophy concept, and I went and sold it to ACCA. Because ACCA was my other client. We used to do stuff for ACCA, right? And lovely gentleman, Anthony Kariuki his name is Anthony Kariuki. Was a country manager. He taught me how to play golf. So Anthony was a really good friend of mine. And I went and sat with Anthony and pitched him the idea that, hey, we can do Idea Trophy, but we shall call it the ACCA Business Challenge. Because what do you really want? You want students to have an intimate relationship with ACCA. Instead of pelting them with this information about ACCA.
Come and do.
Why don't you get them to do a business challenge, which I designed? And why don't they come? Because then effectively they will know enough about ACCA. If 100 students do ACCA Business Challenge, that's probably your easiest way to convert them to do ACCA. The proposal was for 5 million shillings at the time. And when we signed that contract, I still wasn't believing. I was still pinching myself. Like, 5 million, bro?
And at this time
I'm in third year. I'm now almost transitioning. I'm going into fourth year.
Yes.
I am barely attending classes, to be honest.
I can imagine.
School was such a bother. I have moved out of my hostel. I live in my own house. I have a fully furnished house in Kahawa.
I have to ask. I mean, these are even for now. These are
okay numbers.
Yeah,
they're okay numbers.
They're good numbers.
Yeah.
How are you managing your money, and how are you ensuring that nothing is falling by the wayside?
Not well, if I'm honest. So, because I was trying to remember, what did we do with all our cash? So I had a team. So I had Steve, a friend of mine who became COO. Jeff became head of logistics. So we were fully fledged with an office where we were paying rent and computers and receptionist, full shebang. Out of the 5 million shillings we probably netted off maybe 2, Mike, because it was a big, the ACCA challenge, we probably did like 25 universities. I don't think there's a university then that I haven't been to. It was a really good experience because now I was interacting with lecturers and deans of students and heads of university student leadership. Yes. We even got to a point where we were funding a bit of it because then we knew, because we wanted to do university, we needed a good relationship with campuses.
Yes.
Because I wanted to be able to call Kisumu, Maseno, and say I need 100 people in a room, and the president of the student union.
Yes.
I needed to be able to call them and say, hey, we are coming, we need 100, in short notice, please put 100 students for me in a room. And he would use his influence.
Yes.
So we needed those guys in our payroll.
Yes.
So we actually had like a whole university student leadership in our payroll because it made sense.
Yes.
What did you do with that money? So I moved out of, so how I moved out actually of campuses and rented a house and paid, I remember I paid 6 months in advance because I was like, EPS, I don't know if it will come. So I might as well. So I paid 6 months in advance, furnished it at a go.
Yes.
I walked into into TRM, I remember. There was it an Akumat? I think it was an Akumat in TRM. Mm-hmm. You didn't know.
No, I didn't.
You nothing you know about. TRM
oh my gosh.
Vicar Road Mall.
Oh my gosh.
It's right next to it.
Can I tell you something interesting about TRM? Though?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, because first of all, I'm terrible with names of things in general.
Yeah.
But I think I bought my wife's engagement ring at TRM.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah.
Oh, in the they have a nice jeweler at the top on the first or second floor.
Yeah.
I remember.
And they have a branch there and have a branch in the
as
well.
Oh wow, that's
so I know where TRM is.
Okay. But you see, the things you're buying in TRM. The things you're buying in TRM. Versus the things they went to buy a cooker and a fridge. My friend. So that's what you do with the money. I learned a couple of things, right? So I learned how to run sort of multiple projects, financial management. We started being audited because then we started applying for tenders.
Yes.
And we needed audited financial statements. So needless to say, by the time we left school, we had a fully running company. This is where now I think tragedy struck. Because, well, it's tragic, but let me explain. Because we did such a good job for Unilever, they came calling and they said, we have this program called the Management Trainee Program. It's a Unilever Future Leadership Program. We'll pay you 150,000 shillings as your first entry salary. You really can be the best version of yourself. And I told them, no, why do you want to be an employee, right? And they kept coming. So they sent someone else. So as a matter of fact, I remember my deadline was extended a couple of times.
To accept to get to the program.
So for me to apply.
Yeah, for you to apply.
You definitely had to apply.
Yes.
I should never have applied. But I did. So I applied into the Unilever program because when I was an intern in Unilever, the hottest, sexiest, most respected people were management trainees. Management trainees were handled like they were, hey, my friend, if you're the management. So because they would interview 1,000 people and they would give 6 contracts. So you'd have to be cream de la cream to get in. And there was a bit of that belonging that I wanted, to be honest. I wanted, remember where I come from. Subukia Nini, what.
So is that what eventually gets you to agree to apply?
Yeah. So the need for it's not the money to be. I was making more money than the 150K. Long story short is I applied and I was accepted. And on the 1st of August, 2014, I showed up in the Unilever, whatever, where I didn't drive. I still used the matatu. showed up in the Unilever offices. Yeah. So I started my career with Unilever then.
Yes. And the business?
It's a sad story. Because can you imagine all of that a year? Because when it was a 2-year-old business, you still need to nurture it, and businesses like that you cannot delegate business like that. So a year down the line, we had to shut down the business.
But had you guys been getting regular work?
You were
getting the tenders.
So Steve today, that I told you was our chief operating officer. He's one of the biggest honchos in ACCA today. He was hired by ACCA. Martin, who worked with us. Sure they will watch this episode. He works for ACCA as well. They are big bosses in ACCA. Steve is like the head of something, head of policy for East Africa.
So you were still doing work for ACCA?
We were still doing work. But then with me leaving, I think some of that vision left with me. there's a bit of structure and order and business development. And then with me leaving the team, then sort of figured out when they might as well leave.
Yes.
So they left as well.
Okay.
So we became a shell. Sooner or later, we had to sort of just shut it down.
Okay.
And then Unilever became so busy, right? Because then Unilever is going to work you to the bone, right?
Yes.
You will not be able to do side.
Yes.
I'll do this in the evening. And
then,
I tried for like 6 months.
It was not possible.
And especially how it was very difficult too is because I was posted abroad. Let me explain what abroad is. Abroad is not like China. I just felt that they need to say abroad. But let me tell you the quick story of how I ended up out of Kenya. So remember,
is this going to Rwanda?
Yes.
Before even Rwanda, there's a question I have for you when you're still in Kenya.
Yes.
I have two questions. First of all, so when you're getting this 150K and you're saying it's less than what you were making before, do you have to adjust your budget and your everyday expenses? What's your budget philosophy at that time?
So at the time, by the way, I'm not those guys that, and maybe I need to learn how to do it. I'm not those guys that sit down and look at my budget and write a
line item.
So I had learned, because I'm not a very disciplined human being with my money, I had learned to set up systems on the back end. So by the time you're paying me, all of that stuff, money has been taken. I told you I belong to a SACCO. I joined the SACCO. The day I joined Unilever, I joined the SACCO. And my money was already coming out of my SACCOs, out of my payroll, straight into the, before it gets to me, right? I had to pay a HELB loan, so my HELB was being paid. I had to pay investments, etc. So by the time the money was getting to me, I had only enough to fuel my car, because I had now bought a car, etc. I had just enough money to fuel my car and have a drink or two over the weekend and wait for the next payroll.
Okay.
But I was ramping up savings.
In the SACCO.
In the SACCO, right? And I'll tell you why that's important, because those savings were probably some of the most important things. Some of the best decisions I made in my life is that check-off system. Because as my salary continued to increase, all I did was told HR, bump up the number from 100K to 150 to 200K. So I had quite a bit of savings.
Yes.
So my philosophy, to answer your question, is just systemize it on the back end so you don't have to think about it.
Okay. The second thing I wanted to ask, while you were here, before you go to Rwanda, you are at Royco.
Yes.
And you achieve, I believe, a 10%.
You really have done your research.
I've tried. A 10% growth, 2014, 2015.
Yes.
I'm curious, as a salesperson, what tactics, if you can put a finger on it, what things did you do to achieve that growth?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So let me tell you the story of me as a brand manager in Royco. Remember, I used to run an agency.
Yes.
Before I went to work for Unilever, right? As a brand manager, your biggest job is to manage agencies that do the job for you on the ground. So we did 2 big campaigns. We did a campaign called Boresha Maisha. Boresha Maisha was a women chama campaign, where we went and worked with women and we taught them how to use Royco. And so sort of we taught them how to do financial stuff, actually. So financial savings, investments, etc. for chamas. But it was sponsored by Royco. So naturally we sold Royco. The second program we did, and that was done by an agency which I managed. The second thing we did is that we also did Mama Mboga programs. You know how I don't know if... Come on. Let me explain.
This is giving me flashback of Major's episode. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I have another two chances to do it. Because I think I'm enjoying a bit too much.
No, it's fine.
So the Mama Mboga outside of your house that sells you vegetables.
Yeah.
We tried to get her to sell Royco cubes. And Unilever is still pushing that stuff, because when you go to buy skuma wikis and spinach, then ideally you want to take your 2 cubes with you. It makes sense as opposed to going to another shop to buy the cubes, right? So bring the product to us close. But then if you think about that from a structural perspective, what you're doing is that you're introducing a whole route to market. Because how do the cubes get to her? There's 100,000 of them. So how do you actually make sure that there's a route to market? Because it's not as easy. It's not as easy as if you think, yes, the cubes are there, but think about the infrastructure and the plumbing from an RTM perspective to get the product there. So to get Royco cubes to that woman, we had to build a whole RTM
ecosystem.
So distributors now had to have guys on bikes, not motorbikes, bicycles. Because then we had to reduce the cost etc. So putting all of that together, we just naturally saw a bump, because now we had introduced a whole new segment and you had gotten the product as close to them as possible. But it taught me, that project specifically taught me a lot of the stuff I know about route to market design and implementation to date. And I've done a lot of that stuff now. I learned from I learned from that project, right? And it also helped that I have managed an agency before. So it wasn't difficult for me to know when I'm being bullshitted. It wasn't difficult to know what to ask the agency to do. It wasn't difficult for me to understand their costings because that's what I did for a living before I showed up at Unilever. Yeah. So I guess putting all that together made me what I thought was a really good brand manager. And that was the only marketing job I ever did.
Okay.
Because after that, we did such a good job that agency was called Sajeki that we worked with and was run by a lovely lady called Mercy. Mercy offered me a job. She OLX, you remember OLX?
Yes.
OLX was one of her biggest clients at the time. And OLX, they had done such a good job for OLX in Kenya. OLX was asking them to open and OLX was opening in Ghana. And OLX had asked Mercy if she could set up in Ghana so that they can continue working with her. So she wanted a country manager for Sajeki in Ghana, and she spoke to me. And guess what? I accepted. And she gave me, I was earning 150K then. She offered me 250K net. I did not know what the gross was.
Yes.
But who cares?
Yeah.
So it must have been like 330 or whatever. Yeah. But she offered me 250,000 shillings net after my first year of work.
Yes.
I took an offer letter and I went to Unilever and told them, Aki kuongea ukweli. And also I was a bit bored being a management trainee. Because remember, I had been a CEO of my own organization. I was used to high octane, high pressure environment. So for me to be running an agency, it was not very high. It wasn't adding a lot of value to my life, if I'm honest. And so I was happy to leave.
Yes.
And so I resigned from Unilever and wrote my resignation letter and I left.
Yes.
I had a farewell party.
Everything.
The shebang. They gave me a bottle of nice whiskey and a packet of Royco, I remember.
Yes.
And then...
I want to ask you a question before you get to... Because I don't want to get too far.
Yeah.
Because you've talked about the marketing.
Yes.
What's the difference in now your experience and everything you've done?
Yeah.
The key difference between
marketing.
Sales and marketing. My good friend here, Collins, always says he believes, having now been a marketer for a long time, everybody who works in marketing should do a little bit of... should start in sales.
I cannot agree more. Yeah. I cannot agree.
But anyway, tell me what
is the difference? Yeah. So the easiest way to think about it is customer versus consumer. So your consumer is a person that is the ultimate user of the product. So you have a watch. You're a consumer of.
Yes.
You're a consumer, right?
Yes.
You bought that watch from an outlet. That outlet is a customer of the watch manufacturer.
Yes.
There is a sales team that is responsible for making sure that that retailer has the watches, they're paying in time, they're buying, that there's a team that's responsible for making sure that infrastructure and route to market is working correctly. If there's a distributor involved, there's a sales team that's responsible for managing the distributor, basically getting the product to trade. Then there's a marketing team that is responsible for ensuring that you see ads on your social media, that you see billboards of that you get an immersive experience of what watches are. That is a marketing team. And that's the easiest base definition for it. Marketers should be fully responsible for getting consumers to adopt the brand. Sales guys should be completely focused on getting the customer value chain to accept product.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes like people conflate those two and there's maybe an issue that's created around marketers who have a very heavy sales target or objective?
Yeah.
And from my experience of ads, say that's what I've seen. I don't know if it comes the other way as well.
Yeah. So what do I think? I think the age where sales and marketing were two different organizations or two different departments and divisions that only spoke to each other during meetings. I think honestly, I don't know why you'd be running business like that anymore. I think there is a seamless integration between sales and marketing that is required today, just because of how well connected. Because the lines between customer and consumer are blurring as well. Because then you introduce shopper, which is now like sort of a different layer to it. If you send your wife or your house help to go buy milk, she's a shopper who is going to bring the milk to be consumed by a couple of guys. So the point I'm making is you want salespeople who understand marketing, who understand how to speak to the consumer as well. But more importantly, you want marketing people who understand how this value chain works and to understand where we are leaking value within the ecosystem. For them to then, so that when you're having conversations, we're all trying to make sure that you're building value today and value tomorrow.
Yes.
So I do think there's an integration between sales and marketing that's super useful.
Yeah.
And I think Collins is right. If I had a magic wand, I would train all marketeers on sales.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's get back to your story. You are now transitioning to this potential Ghana role.
Yeah,
you have left with your bottle of whiskey, your Royco.
Yeah, yes. Nimwambia kwa heri, asante sana. No one cried. And they told me, asante sana, go ye and be the best version of yourself. There's a guy called Mark Engel. Mark, lovely human being, was the CEO of Unilever here in East Africa at the time. When I was in Royco at the time, Mark and I had become friends. You know, we had tried to play a round of golf together. He had become sort of my mentor. And when I left, I went to him and told him. I had a meeting because I work level 1, Mark was work level 5. But he called me for a meeting, and I remember we rode from Silver Springs to his, because he couldn't find time in his calendar. He told me, I have a meeting with KTDA here, but I'm sure I will need to get here. So let's talk in the car.
Yes.
So I had this ride with him in the car, and he was asking, why are you leaving? HR is telling me you're leaving because they have seen your resignation. And I explained to him that I want to be a business person. I want to be an entrepreneur. Unilever is not providing me the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, but someone else is, and she's paying me well for it. I have nothing to lose, sir. Because remember, my dream was always to come back to agency because I had mayors and it was giving me, I had hang-ups.
Yes.
And so Sajeki was a really good way back in. And so he told me, I understand, I don't have a job for you, but if a job does come up, I will call you for it. I was like, okay, fine. I was like, what job would come up in Unilever that would be? So I thought wewe ni stories za jaba, but lakini asante sana. Thank you very much. We left in an amicable terms. A week later, Mark went to see gorillas in Kigali. You know those gorillas, the famous gorillas in Rwanda, on a personal trip.
Yes.
On his way back, he stepped in Kigali because gorillas are out of town.
Yes.
And I was like, wait a minute, this city, this country, is it in my region? He was asking these people. I was like, yeah, this country is part of East Africa. So technically, I was like, how do we service it? We service it via Uganda. So Unilever would sell product to Uganda. Uganda would sell product to Rwanda. It's a very inefficient system. I was like, but why don't we have an organization? How much did it cost to set up a Unilever business here? How many people are here? 12 million. How big is the economy? At the time it was like $15 billion. It's growing at 10%. Nice president, not much issues from a political
Stable
perspective,
enough.
etc. So we could build a 10 million euro business here. We were at the time $1 million or something, right? And it was like, so how much did it? So he did math on the back of an envelope, literally. It was like, so we just need to put up a country manager here and a small marketing team and a small sales team, and we are up and running. Let's do it. I know exactly the right person to call. So he called me.
A week later.
On his way back on the plane. I have not even landed in Ghana yet. On the plane, he called me. He was like, oh yeah, you remember how I told you if a job ever showed up, I'll call you? A job has showed up. Let's have breakfast. So we had breakfast at Windsor. It was this very weird conversation. It's like, I know you left last week. Najua hata laptop sharudisha, but I want you back. When? Now. Because Kigali has opened up. And as a matter of fact, his PO is called Sheila. Sheila here has your flights booked because we have your details. Your flights are booked. Your passport is on file. It's fine. Your flights are booked. You leave to Kigali tonight. So for you to go see for yourself and agree on whether you want to be country manager for Unilever in Rwanda.
Yes.
It was like a movie. So I had to tell Mercy, my boss,
hold on.
Nipe wiki moja, give me a week to settle in in between, right?
Yes.
For me to acclimatize to my new job, give me a week. Kumbe in this 1 week,
you are.
I am exploring a job for Unilever in Rwanda. So I landed in Kigali, looked at it. I was like, oh, well, to be honest, it's Unilever.
Yes.
And Mark was like, how much was Mercy paying you?
Yes.
250K.
Net.
It was like net. It was like, I'll make it $500,000. Remember last month, my salary was 150K. So I had like that entire month, it's like a movie in my head. Let me tell you the most interesting part of all of that. The most interesting part of all of that is Mark actually told me to make it easy for you. So I went to Kigali, came back, loved the country, was like, it's fine, I'm sold. Yeah. I know this business and it makes sense. Like, I don't know Alex, I don't know Ghana. This is an easier, and because they're both country, they're both country manager jobs. Afadhali this one. So Mark was like, to help you, I'll have a mkutano with, let me and you and Mercy have a meeting. So you can imagine we are at cafe here in Lavington
With
with my with the CEO of Unilever and my boss from Sajeki, and he's telling her, I know he's accepted a job offer with you, but we want him back.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he's already back with us. But I thought I should give you the courtesy.
Yes.
I had a lot of respect for Mark because who does that?
Yes.
And Mercy was so blown away by the fact that, because Mercy was an agency, if you think about it, Unilever agency. She was like, why is the CEO of Unilever sitting with me? So we ended up being she was just like, it's fine. And hata kama ni mimi, to be honest, take the Unilever job. Yeah, let's not kid each other. Yeah. So Mercy got me the Unilever job, if you think about it, because Unilever would never have offered me the job if I hadn't shown them that I have the balls to leave Unilever to go work for another company.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's how I transitioned to sales, because remember I was in marketing, and the Unilever Rwanda job is a pure sales job, because you're responsible for revenue, route to market development, sales, basically building distribution.
Yeah.
So I spent 3.5 years there, probably one of the toughest but most exciting time of my life, because I was learning. I had never done sales for Unilever before, and so I was having to I moved from here to sitting in the executive committees, doing budgets, being responsible for a 5 million euro business up from a million, etc. Yeah. So that's how my Rwanda business became. And then now, from a money perspective, I'm now earning 500,000 shillings. But remember, I had systemized the stuff on the back end from a circle perspective. I just wrote.
So it was still the same.
I had a guy called John Mwendwa who told me, the one biggest advice I'll tell you is freeze your lifestyle. Don't start living a 500,000 lifestyle. Freeze it at 150. The places you're eating at, continue eating there. The clothes you're wearing, continue wearing those clothes. The difference, put that money away. Best advice I've ever had. Because that's exactly what I did. So the difference, I just continued.
You just keep putting it away.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know some of the milestones that you've hit, right? That you end up hitting in Rwanda. What were your toughest days setting up that business?
So the two toughest days is when I land in Kigali, and the fact that so I was sent as a fixer of sorts, because it was like a business, it was like a biashara. We had two distributors who were very badly handled, and because they didn't have somebody sitting in Kigali looking after them, right? And I have a target now. Mark has given me a target, told me, listen, this guy has delivered 70,000 euros last month. Your target this month is 300,000 euros.
300,000. So from
like
70,000,
yeah. Because he's like, we've put in investment. What do you want? You want marketing investment? It's fine, take. But deliver 300K on your first month. What do I know about sales in the context of Unilever, right? And I remember I used to have like these deeply difficult days where you're in the office wondering, okay, what exactly does a country manager do? Right? And so anyway, so that was very hard. So the first year in Kigali was a nightmare, but it's probably one of my biggest growth years in my life then, because I learned, I had sort of teach myself a lot of stuff. I had to teach myself how to manage people at that scale, how to have relationships at that scale, how to be able to still deliver turnover for a business at that scale, right? How to be creative about business setups, etc. So I learned all of that but those were dark days. Did you meet any of the targets in that first year? So I think it was a $1 million business, well, €1 million, because it's a Unilever runs in. It was €1 million before I showed up. We closed at a 1.5 on the second year. We did 2.5 on the so 1.5 on the first year, 2.5 on the second year, and we hit 3 point something, 3.5 on the third year. Yeah. So we moved the business from 1 to 3.5. Pretty solid results, if you ask me. We didn't get to the 10 that Mark wanted, but we got to 3.5.
What are the things that you can tell me practically, again, similar to how you implemented stuff in Royco? What are the things and tactics you're implementing in Rwanda that worked and allowed you to get to even that 3.5 within 3 years?
That's a very good question. So the first thing that we did is a supply chain. And I remember you had Peter, what's his name? Peter Ndoati.
Yes.
And he was talking about manufacturing, and I was listening to him. I was like,
yes.
I know exactly what this guy is talking about. But one of the things that we implemented is stock used to flow from Nairobi to Kampala, then Kampala to Kigali. We changed that because effectively what you're doing is you've added a new cost center, which effectively just makes product more expensive down the road. So we changed that, and it was a whole piece of work, because you can imagine there's a whole supply chain process on the back end. So smoothened out the value chain, which effectively meant we also got product faster. 2 is we cleaned up distributors, because distributors had teams, but they were not trained. There were no routes. There was no system. So there was a Salesforce automation tool called Leverage. So we introduced Leverage, where now we could tell where salespeople are at the click of a button. We turned on marketing campaigns. So we started doing actual marketing. So you remember my Mama Mboga campaign here? We introduced that there. We got into new categories, so it was a very home care driven business. So we only did sunlight. We really only had a sunlight business, right? But we didn't have a personal care business. But we had beautiful personal care brands, Geisha and Vaseline. So we got that into Kigali, and we did really big campaigns there. So it was a multiplicity of things.
Right.
Hired a team, so got two territory managers with guys beneath them. Got a marketing person, set up an office, got into very good books with the government. One of our biggest clients was what they call AFCO, the army shop. And because I started playing golf in Kigali, the MD of AFCO was a very good friend of mine. And I remember at some point, the Rwandan government actually froze all imports of anything that's not made in Rwanda. And we were the only guys who were still importing into Kigali. Long story. But anyway, so multiple things, but I think the biggest one was just structuring the sales process, which is actually how I learned. And one of my biggest beliefs to date is that sales is not, you can be exuberant and extroverted and sharp talking.
Yes.
But sales is not that. Sales is a process. The ability to set up a repeatable system is really what sales is about. Because if you think about us from a scalable, repeatable system, right? Where you know that you have a forecast, that you have this much demand in the market and you can address that demand. And there's this opportunity for additional demand and we know what you're going to do about it. And you have a route to market and a logistics system to be able to fulfill that demand. That is what sales is. There's nothing about there in that entire ecosystem. Of course, you have to convince people and be logical and negotiate your way through it. But ultimately, your understanding of the system is the most important point.
Yeah.
So today, when you walk into organizations, the first thing we do is, even before we look at your salespeople and how nicely spoken they are and how well trained they are, we look at your system. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how well spoken your sales teams are. I learned that from 3.5 years of setting up an actual Unilever system in Kigali.
Okay. And while you're here, while you're hitting some of these, you say you don't hit a 10 million target, but you do hit some key targets and you are growing. Does your salary also change? Do you and if it doesn't, if you were to go back, would you have negotiated that contract
differently? So let me tell you the beauty of working. First of all, I was an expert, right?
Yes.
So I had a house, I had a car, fuel was paid for, rent was paid for. So really, my salary was fully mine.
Yes.
And so it was, and remember, I've moved from one. So I had a bit of adjusting to this new money to make. So I obviously started dressing differently. And but then what I did though is, so my salary had moved.
Yes.
And what I did with all of that is I bought, where I live today, I bought that property then. So I actually bought like a really good piece of land anyway, I bought property.
Yes.
And I started building. And I didn't start build, but I built an architectural design of the house I want to live in.
Yes.
It was a really big, it was a next futuristic level looking house at the time.
Yes.
And so build that, costed it, worked with an architect and a contractor to figure out how much that would cost me. So I had a number in mind. So all of that money was going to that number. But it was all saved in a SACCO because my dad had told me you have to be in a SACCO.
Yes.
It was all saved. So out of my salary, I was getting like 150K. And all of that stuff was going into
Okay. So what happens? Why do you leave Unilever? It sounds like you're or rather actually you get promoted if I'm not mistaken.
So from Kigali,
yes.
Mark left. I had a nice lovely guy called Justin. Justin Apsi, and Justin you had worked in Australia before, and there's only so much you can do in a role. So I had been in the role for 3.5 years. We needed to get someone else to come and push it a bit forward. One of the things that Justin did is that he called his Australian friends and said, "Hey, I have a young man here who I think would really benefit from living in a modern trade-driven country that's very data-driven. Could you take it?" And Australia said, yeah. So from Kigali, I was on a flight to Sydney. And I lived there for a year. And this was in 2019, 2020, so just pre-COVID. And so I was a modern trade account manager, because remember, Australia, the modern trade business, modern trade, the Naivas and the Carrefours, that's what we call modern trade, and Mama Mbogas are general trade. The modern trade business in Australia is a purely modern trade business. They don't have Mama Mbogas, right?
Yes.
And they are a very data-driven, technology-infused business, right? And we don't have that yet. But we knew that we wanted the skill sets before these markets get to where they are.
Right.
So we needed to send people to markets like that. South Africa is pretty advanced as well. India is very good for GT, but not very good for MT. But markets like the US and Australia were way years ahead of where we needed to be. So we needed people in the Unilever ecosystem to learn how to do it. So I went to I lived in Australia for a year. Best time of my life. Unbelievable. Because remember, now I'm a golfer, so I play golf in some of the best golf courses in the world.
Right.
I traveled the country, and I learned a lot from how to sell in deeply modern trade environments. So by modern trade environments, I mean, let me give you an example, right? The Woolworths. So Australia has two big supermarkets, Woolworths and Coles. Between those two, they control 80% of the business of the trade, modern trade business in Australia. There's a few others, but those are the two biggest. Woolworths has 1,000 stores. But that Woolworths system is integrated with the Unilever system. So when something runs out in the Woolworths system, it pings the Unilever system for an order. So there is actually almost no human interaction. So you cannot overstock Woolworths. They will never pick stock if they don't need you, right? If they don't need the stock, right? And you can imagine making that work, right? And so your forecasting has to be super sharp. And there's something called range reviews, which is how we spend a lot of our time doing. Because if your range is not listed in Woolworths, you are screwed. Because Woolworths is such a big market. If your ice cream or your whatever product you're selling is not in their range, then you'll shut down your factory. Because you just don't have enough capacity. There's no one else that can take that much volume, right? And so so I learned how to negotiate at that very, very high level. And those negotiations are not based on how I feel. They're based on data. You're able to shape a narrative using data, what is growing, what is not, what is more margin, what is not, etc. So I learned a lot of that, right? So did that for a year. COVID happened. We all had to come back home. So came back and looked after a business for Unilever called Unilever International, which is an imported range for Unilever. Dove is one of those brands, and I was responsible for it for the East Africa region. So Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Ethiopia, etc. And that range is very modern trade driven. So it made sense for me to look after it,
background and everything,
because then Dove, you will not sell Dove in a kibanda, to be honest, right? So it's a Naivas, Carrefour, etc. conversation. So being able to negotiate joint business plans at that level was necessary, which is why, again, I keep saying, understanding sales, yes, you need to be nice and sociable, but the bulk of it, 90% of it, is process and systems and structure. Okay.
From a personal perspective, what's happening in your money life at this point? Have you finished building the house?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I've started on the foundation. So I came back. When I came back, I lived for 6 months in a rented apartment, which Unilever paid for. So I'm still not paying rent.
Yes.
And I took all that money, and my house moved from 0 to 2 floors up.
Yeah.
In a go. Because I had
you had the cash to do it.
Yeah, I had all the cash.
Okay.
So I went to my circle and told them the house is now has. Yeah, it was very easy, and it was very nice, because now then I built a house that I always envisioned in my. So the what I did with my money at the time is that I then took all that all of that windfall from all the jobs I had done, because I'd done maybe 6 or 7 years, and I built because I did not want to pay rent.
And at this point, rent has been paid for you.
I have never paid rent. I really don't know what rent paying is, so I cannot start now. Just the concept of rent is scary. Yeah.
Okay. So what happens? How do you end up leaving Unilever?
So I've worked there for 10 years. remember, I still wanna be my own business.
Yes, for 10 years.
For 10 years. Yeah, but then just when I'm thinking of quitting, they throw Australia your way just before you're thinking of quitting. You know, it was a very exciting journey, right? So African Originals, which is what the brand KO is owned by a company called African Originals, and the CEO Alex. We had a conversation, and I was very impressed by what she was doing because she was going against the grain by setting up an alcohol challenger to the Diageos of this world, right? I mean, Kenyan Originals was the first fruit flavored cider. It's actually not fruit flavored. It's actually what is the opposite of fruit flavored if it's actual fruit, whatever that is?
Yes.
So she was the first to do it, and she was gaining momentum. Or the business was gaining momentum, but they needed a sort of that thinking and structure from a Unilever perspective to bring it here, so we can then set up a proper route to market and infrastructure and thinking, so we can be able to move from 500 outlets to 5,000 outlets, right? And to do it in a way that is sustainable.
Yes.
So I looked at the challenge, and I was like, this sounds like a good challenge to get behind. And also the second point is, I saw a business person who was building a business in Kenya. You know, Unilever is pretty controlled, right? It's Unilever. Head office is in London. There is decisions that you cannot make, and also when you walk into a room and say, my name is Kelvin from Unilever, doors open.
Yes.
When you show up and say, my name is Kelvin from Kenyan Originals, you're like, okay, so who are you exactly, right? So I knew that there was something about working if I really wanted to run my own business, there was something about working in a local Kenyan context for a local thoroughbred Kenyan manufacturer. And so African Originals felt like the best opportunity. So I left Unilever as a commercial director for AO.
What's the remuneration thinking around
around there is I was offered shares, which was fantastic. Like I was offered a small percentage of the company. Good stuff. Number two is I got a decent salary bump because there had to be value. So I actually, got a really decent salary bump up from, must have been, it was the first time I got to like $1 million plus shillings in salary per month, which was quite nice if you think about it. Because I knew that I needed to save. By then I was living in my own house, but now I needed to ramp up savings for when I leave to go to set up my own business. Because one day I will go set up my own business, right? And I knew that the two things that really mess business people and entrepreneurs is that you have these annoying monthly recurring bills. Rent is probably the biggest. And then secondly is you set up and you have no savings. Right? So then, and it takes time for business to ramp up before you're making money off it. So I stayed in KO for a little under 2 years. And then this entrepreneur bug became a bit too much.
Too much for you to resist anymore.
Yeah, to resist anymore.
A question on KO, because you do achieve still some really key milestones. From whatever it is that you can share. I mean, I think you get into 5 different markets, if I'm not mistaken. What are the things, again, that you are employing that helped KO grow in those 2 and a bit years that you were there?
Yeah. So I think the 2 biggest things we did was just, if you think about the route to market, because at the time we were going direct to market. So we were so direct to market is KO was selling directly to bars. KO was selling directly to outlets, right? And it's there's only so much you can do because you're either a manufacturer or a distributor. You cannot be both. And so we needed to, and we're a manufacturer, we're not a distributor. So we needed to set up a distribution infrastructure. So setting up part 1 of that distribution infrastructure was the first thing that we did, right? And that really helped to get, and it's a lot harder than you think because, you're saying you're a brand. Distributors are only loyal to people that make them money. They're not loyal. They don't care.
They're loyal to the money.
They're loyal to the money, right? And distributors they don't build markets. They are a logistical ecosystem. They're a logistical provider, right? They sell what is moving. So then effectively you walk to a distributor A and you tell the distributor, please stock my product and spend your money on stock, but the product is not moving. So you actually have to do a lot of work on the front end as well to get the product up and running.
Consumers are buying it.
So you remember the consumer-customer discussion we were having? So which is why sales guys should also have a good understanding of how to get demand from the market. So we did lots of activations, lots of bar activations, getting people to just taste the product, a few events here and there. And so, yeah, so I think the two biggest things we did is we built a team on the back end and we built capability from a distribution perspective. And then on the front end, we did enough work based for the consumer to pick it up, right? So much so that our friends launched. And that's all I'm going to say about that subject.
A question I ask, how difficult, and this may sound ignorant and possibly even stupid, but how difficult is it to get a product into a supermarket in Kenya?
It depends. Okay, so it depends on a couple of factors, right? So it depends on what product it is and the need that the product is achieving. So let me explain. If you walked to Naivas today and told them that you want at least another packet of milk, you will have a very difficult time, because you're like, what Naivas will ask you, what is it that your milk is doing that all these other 20 brands are not doing? Make sense? But if you walk in and say, I have a fruit flavored cider, which is made of natural ingredients, which is going to create a completely new category for you that does not exist, and it's going to bring in new consumers into the category, then they'll have a conversation. So it depends on how you package your story, on the narrative of how you put your narrative together, right? Yes. But it's forget narrative. It's really what your product is and what it does, right? So if it's just another Me Too product, then you'll have a difficult time. Then the second point is not just about putting the product on shelf, because that's 10% of the job done, right? No, because what Naivas will do is they'll tell you, okay, fine, come, give me. I have 100 stores. I will list you in 20 stores, and I'll give you what they call facings. I'll give you one facing per store. So come and put in that KO brand you're talking about. Come and put one piece on the shelf. So there'll be a whole shelf with everybody else and your one piece sitting there. It's called share of shelf. So your share of shelf then effectively has to grow based on your share of market. So in supermarkets, you command as much share of the shelf as your market share is.
Yes.
So as your market share continues to grow, they continue to give you more space. That's where now your job begins, because now you have to make sure you are doing a lot of work as a manufacturer, the owner of that brand, to get products flowing, right? And that's where now a lot of salespeople then are not able to do a good job, because then you have to sign joint business plans. You have to think about consumer activation, shopper. Then the whole engine back end from a marketing and sales perspective has to come together, which is where I think it has to be a well-coordinated approach between sales and marketing to bring that stuff to life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me an example of a joint business plan. Is this a joint business plan now? If it was, let's say it's our product.
Yes.
Is it we are doing a joint business plan with Naivas to figure out how to make this happen?
Yes. So we are doing, so effectively what you're saying as a manufacturer is that you're a partner.
Yes.
I'm a partner. We are partnering with you to sell African Originals.
Yeah.
And for us to do my investment in that partnership is going to be Y. And there is very specific elements to what a JBP is. Today, and then Naivas then says, okay, fine, because you're willing to invest X amount, this is how much I will invest as well. I give you X amount of space on shelf. When I have promotions, I will give you priority for X amount of days or in X amount of stores. Or from a logistics perspective, I will stock this much because I am now confident you're going to do the work to get the stock out.
Yes.
Because there's nothing as bad as you're promoting or you're doing and there's no stock, right?
Yes,
it's really a waste of money.
Yes.
So that is what a joint business plan is.
And are you then also negotiating on the revenue?
So you're negotiating on the revenue per
product sale of
Yeah. So take 3 steps back, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing you do is you ask yourself, what is the size of opportunity within the categories I'm playing in? So I'm playing in cider. The cider market is worth, I don't know, I'm making these numbers up.
Yeah.
150 million shillings a month, right? In Naivas. Out of the 150 million shillings today, what's my market share? I'm 30% market share. So I'm at 45 million shillings. Good. Out of the 45, how much do I think I can get to? What do I honestly think is the size of opportunity? And we lock that in as the size of opportunity with the retailer. So we tell each other, we want our KO to move from 45 to 60 because we know the opportunity exists, right?
Yes.
So then we start asking ourselves, how will we do that? We'll do that in one of 3 ways, right? So you either have more users, more usage, or more benefits. Let me explain.
Yes.
More users is you either get more people to use KO. You either get more users, more usage. You either get the current guys who are drinking KO to drink more KOs. Or you're either getting the people who are already using KO gin to now also start taking KO tonic. So you're then adding innovations that are linked to your original product, right? So then you then start figuring out all the levers of growth for within that ecosystem of usage and benefits, right?
Right.
That is then what you call the levers of a joint business plan, right? And that would be, we're going to increase shelf space, we're going to do promotions, we're going to add more variants or innovation, etc. We will, instead of being in 20 stores, we're going to be 90 stores, because we believe that the demographic we serve, but there's a more opportunity distribution, etc. Right? So all those levers put together, you then put that in a joint business plan.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's some really good insight. So I want to go to the point now, because you work at KO for quite a bit, for 2 years and a bit. When you're leaving, and it sounds like from the story you've told us, it sounds like you've sorted out your housing, you don't have rent costs, you've been saving. And for people who again have sat on that seat, who transition into entrepreneurship, there's always that excitement, and then there's the sunken reality of being an entrepreneur. Because you've met your costs at this point. Do you also still have that reality that a lot of entrepreneurs transitioning from a regular paycheck go through?
Good question. So context to this point is, by the time I was leaving KO, there's a friend of mine who told me, you will be excited for all of 6 months, because you can cover I'm sure your savings can probably, if you don't make another check for another 6 months, you should be fine. And if you're not, then please don't quit. Because then there's something wrong with that math, right? So I had that was checked for me. I was like, okay, fine, that's fine. I can live maybe a little over 6 months. Okay, good. Then he said the biggest thing you will have to go through is you go through this really high of, oh my God, I am not employed anymore. Freedom. I can wake up in the morning whatever time I want. My time is my time. That entire, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm my own boss, right? And that usually lasts about a month or two, to be honest. Because for me, who's lived for 12 years, I've always had my calendar has always been back to back. Apart from when I'm on leave, I don't know how to live a life that's not fully scheduled, etc. Right? And therefore, that high will last you a month. If you're lucky, you'll go on holiday, you'll drink mimosas, but then you'll start wondering, okay, what next, right? And then the second thing that's going to happen is your bank account is now, now when you're employed, your bank account is always minus positive, and right? Now it's just minus. So you start at whatever number you start with. Every month you remove 200,000 shillings or 300,000. You can actually tell. It's a forecast. You can tell your lifeline. That is what wakes you up in the morning. Even if your lifeline is 10 months, or even if it's a year, you know that a year from now you need to get. There's nothing as stuttering as that, right? So did that. Anyway, so and it actually happened to me. So I left. I'm leaving to set up this thing called Commercial Club of Africa. Commercial Club of Africa is a member body for salespeople. We have a revenue plan because we want to charge membership fees. We want to do events, etc. But that stuff is not a lot of money, because at the end of the day, you're actually having to spend to create a brand name first. By the time someone is paying you 10,000 shillings at year's membership fees to your member body, what you have to have done a lot of work, right? So I remember 3 months in, I had like this really, like a full on deep, right? Where I'm sitting by myself, I'm thinking, was this really the way, right? And the thing I didn't tell you, just before I left KU, I had got a really nice offer from a telco in TZ. And they wanted a sales and distribution director, and they had given me an offer full on with money and everything, sign-on bonus, etc. So I had something to compare against. And I remember sitting there negotiating with someone about some stupid money. It was like 7,000 shillings for something I would not normally have been involved with from a negotiation perspective. I was now negotiating. And I sat there and thought, this may not have been the smartest thing to do, right? But I do think it is important to go through that phase, to be honest. I'm just a year old since I left. As a matter of fact, my last day in KO was 10th of January. So a week ago, I was celebrating a year. So I don't think I'm out of the woods yet. But I think what I've learned now is the fact that you need to quickly get to a point where you're able to ramp up personal. I'm not even talking business, personal revenue, right? Which is, for example, why then I work for Green Hat as an example, right? Because then that guarantees a bit of... But my contract with them is that I work for them 2 days a week, and I still have the rest of the time to still build the rest of my business. So you have to find creative stuff like that to still be able to feed mouths at home.
How does your tell me a little bit about the society that you set up, how you hope that it works, how it's working now. Are people buying in? What's the process?
Yes. That's a good question. So Commercial Club of Africa, first of all, the vision for it is to be an African ecosystem. So let me explain. Across the African continent, we believe in Kenya, there's at least 500,000 people that call themselves salesmen and women.
In fact, when I was doing my research for this, I found that my job mag, it's a whatever, a job platform. There are, I think, jobs for either 2024, 2025, sales jobs were the second highest jobs requested for. I can't remember what the first one was. But then there's another report I read as well that said 17% of all jobs in Kenya are sales jobs.
So I mean, every P&L we have a gross sales value, which is the first and most important number in that thing, right? In the P&L, that gross sales value is brought by salespeople. We are the only people that bring money to the organization. Everybody else spends it. And therefore, effectively, we are an important lever in the organization. But we are for lack of a better word, salespeople are not very well recognized. They're not very well taken care of. And the reason for that is because they're so busy. They're so important to organizations that they're always working. So then no one has ever found the right mix of saying, fine, you can still do what you do, but we can support you this way. That's the first reality. The second reality is that sales is not trained in this part of the world, right? We were just talking earlier, you don't have a Bachelor of Commerce in sales. Even I did Bachelor of Commerce in marketing because there wasn't a sales option, right? And therefore, effectively, one of the biggest opportunities, if you ask me, business opportunities, is to set up really good, well thought through training for salespeople. And there's two opportunities. There's professional training and there is academic training. Professional training is when FXPesa says we have 20 salespeople, please come train them. They're professionals already. So they already know somewhat what they're doing from a sales perspective. You're really just sharpening. Or you have a Form 4 leaver who's left school and they want to be a salesperson when they grow up. They come and do a diploma or a degree, right? So we've actually just applied for a university chat, I was saying. And we want to set up Africa Sales University, right? So we want to be I don't think there's another university in Africa that teaches sales. We want people to do degrees in sales, postgraduate, masters in sales. I want to be a Dr. Kelvin, but I want to be a Dr. Kelvin who's done a PhD. In sales. It's possible too. And I do think that we have to sort of dream that way for us to be able to get that vision up and running. So that's one part of our business. So we do, and that's actually how we make money from training, because then we realize that what we have to do, I quickly realized that what we want to do is to not put too much money pressure or sales commercial pressure on the community, because then you start doing the wrong things. You want the community to be a really well thought through community. And so how we have set it up now is we have what we call super clubs. So, and we have broken them down into sectors. So think real estate, FMCG, financial services, banking, insurance. So we do have super clubs within CCA. So when you join CCA, we ask you, who do you work for? You work for KCB Bank. Okay, so please join the banking super club or the financial services super club. And the reason for that, then we can be able to take care of your needs as a sales team that works in banks. Because you who works in a bank and you who works in hospitality, you're both salespeople, but your needs are different. You sell a different service, you sell a different product, you sell it differently, etc. And therefore, how we train you, how we support you is different. So our vision is to set up to have these super clubs be mini communities in themselves. That are autonomous in nature. So we do not want to run the super clubs. We want the head of sales for KCB to come and be the chairman for the banking sales super club. We want the head of sales for EABL to come and be the FMCG sales super club champion, something like that, right? And so how is it going now? We have about 800 members. We have 2,500 followers on LinkedIn. We haven't started charging membership yet, and we probably will not for a couple of months as well, because we want to get to a point where the most natural thing to do is to charge membership. But for now, we're just providing value. Because remember, I'm a big believer on just provide value fast, and the price will take care of itself, right? And also because we don't have to, because the school is making money. So we're actually funding CCA via the school.
And the school is the one that's doing the training.
The trainings, etc. Right? So we've been very fortunate, if I'm honest. Like, it's unbelievable. It just tells you how much need there is. In the last 6-7 months, We have trained L'Oreal, we've trained Unga Group, we've trained Standard Chartered Bank. We are training PS Kenya. Yesterday I was in supermarkets looking at condoms, because they sell Trust condoms and these tablets, the Femiplan tablets, etc. So we are training that now. We've trained Mivida, the sales
and even
school.
to get these
corporates
that you're now training, are you using your same pipeline?
So
you're for these 7 that you've trained, you've talked to 70.
So we have our today, because we do look at our business development pipeline every day.
Yes.
We are doing 2 or 3 pitches a week. At least every week we are talking to 3 new customers, not current guys, and we have broken down sectors by companies. And we have at least 600 companies in our pipeline. So it is hard work. Because which is actually how we are then able to say we have 7 guys
that you've actually,
maybe 10 to be honest, corporates, big good quality corporates that are then able to give us an opportunity to work with them. But the ultimate ambition is to get to a point where we have a full school. So we do 2 things. We do open programs where you can come to school as an individual and go to a class which is preset. And we do customized corporate programs. So we are finding that customized corporate is obviously easier to do, because then you're talking to one person who is the head of sales, right? And that opens up 40 salespeople to train, as opposed to talking to 40 different salespeople to come. But we still want to do both, because what the open programs is, in our view, what is going to grow into the university, because people don't go to campus as employees. They go to campus as individuals. So that sort of is a thinking.
Around that. Okay. I have 2 other quick themes I'll cover before we close. So the first one is around maybe the brand image, or the branding of the word sales, or salesman, or commercial. And I mean, up until we've had this discussion today, honestly, and you explaining that, sales is actually just it's a systemized way of being able to make a product available. And I'm wondering, is there maybe the word's not an issue, but is there maybe a framing issue in the way the average salesperson in Kenya contextualizes themselves in the market that limits the way that the average person would see them?
You're being very polite with this.
I'm trying to be politically correct.
I can tell. What you're asking is sales has a bad reputation. Really, the word sales, or the concept of sales, doesn't like when someone comes and tells you I'm a salesperson, you don't think wow,
like it's complicated, like you're doing really hard things and it's difficult. And
versus when someone comes and says I'm an engineer, or I'm a lawyer, right? So, and I agree with you. And the reason for it, if you ask me, is deeply historical, and is deeply rooted in how we ended up having a sales function in the first place. Because if you think about how sales became sales, is small history lesson. Is if you think about the pre.com boom, when all society needed was to manufacture product, because there was so much demand for the product, that all you needed to do was just make product, and you sold product, right? And then a lot of businesses then realized, oh my God, we can then make a lot of money in manufacturing. And then the manufacturing boom became a thing, and everybody then got involved, right? So which effectively means that you had an oversupply of product, right? So now you had to push product, because now you had 3 different options from 3 different companies for whatever you wanted, right? Maybe more. That's how sales became a thing, right? But which effectively means that sales was, if originally set up to push products down people's throats. We are now realizing that what sales should be, it should be about providing value. We are, as salespeople, we are much service and solution providers as priests and pastors and doctors and nurses. We need to think of the work we do the same way nurses. You know how nurses think that their job is to save lives? And they do actually save lives, and doctors and etc. and engineers. Because if you build a bad bridge, then we are all screwed. Then we need to think of sales the same way, right? But the reason why we ended up here is because then sales was seen as we have an oversupply, we have too much stock, let's push it down people's throats. Which effectively means that salespeople then became clever, they started unscrupulous, they started lying and and thinking of themselves, or they just wanted to get rid of the stock, right? But we now know for real that the only way to build long-term value is by building long-term value. So I show up and I have a discussion with you and I ask, what do you really need? And if you're asking for Y, but I really know that what you need is X, but X is cheaper than Y, but I would rather sell you Y out, the real thing to do is to offer you X and tell you what you need is not training. What you need is a system to sell. And I would rather you spend your money buying that system than paying me to train your team. Because if I train your team, nothing is going to change. Getting to that level of conviction with your customers, because that customer will appreciate and respect you for providing them with real value. That, in my view, is what salespeople should do. But someone has to do the job of training sales guys. Someone has to do the job of working with salespeople to get them to that level. Insurance is probably one of the worst hit industries or sectors by what I think is an epidemic, which is the stuff you've spoken about, right? Which is about short-termism and just being able to think today, me, as opposed to you, customer, solution, provision, etc., right? And so I can't remember your question.
No, I mean, the question was really around the framing of it.
You can see how animated I am. So sorry, I went all out on you.
It was about the context of it. And in fact, I wanted to just expand a little bit and ask. So in your purview, how wide is a sales job description? Because I've heard you talking about ensuring, the product is there for distribution. We're talking about the Mama Burger and ensuring. So how wide is the purview for a sales person? How wide should they be thinking?
Yeah, that's a good question. So ideally, when we talk about sales, we say there is we call them quadrants to what a salesperson should do. There's a core quadrant. Core is your ability to sit and convince somebody and have a negotiation and just core sales skills, objection handling, etc., right? But then that's not all. The second quadrant to sales is what you call leadership, being able to lead yourself, others, and lead your customers. Remember when I spoke about customer directorship as opposed to management? That's the business, the leadership piece. The other quadrant is about business. So your ability to understand value chains and business and pricing and marketing and finance and manufacturing. Being able to put all that stuff together is your job as a salesman. If you want to be a salesman of any consequence, you understand the end-to-end. Because by the time I'm providing you with a watch, and I go back to watch, ideally, if you tell me it's too expensive, I have to be able to break it down to you and tell you why I'm charging you 10,000 shillings for it. I cannot be able to explain that to you if I do not know how the stuff is made. If I show up with a jean and I'm telling you the jean is going to cost you 3,500 shillings and there's another jean for 500, but you're like, what is the difference? I need to be able to explain that. That's business, right? And the fourth one is, so there's core, business, leadership, and self. Self is about the ability to manage yourself, right? Your time, because the problem you're facing here is that salespeople have such a difficult time because they are very lonely. You imagine if we know that for you to get to that one yes, you need to hear 9 no's. We know that what the problem is. What Vusi says is he says it's not that after every 9th no, the 10th one will be yes. You could hear 30 no's and then hear 5 yeses.
And then another.
So you could then hear 30 no's in a week. You wake up in the morning, you go to work, and all you're hearing
is
no's. You need a different kind of thinking. I mean, your heart should be for pumping blood. And not nothing else, right? What's the point I'm making? The point I'm making is you asked how deep should should a salesman's job description be? You should be able to do those 4 things. Manage yourself pretty well, so don't take anything personally. Manage, because it's an emotionally draining job, and being able to compartmentalize is something we teach salespeople, right? Because it's a skill of hearing a no and moving on to the next meeting. And this person that you're talking to should not know. Or feel any hang-ups.
The rejection
that you just and do that 10 times, right? So that's on self, and being able to understand business inside out. This is probably the most difficult. This is probably the one thing that salespeople don't do well, because salespeople go in and they think that my job is to sell comms and all I'm gonna do is sell comms or insurance, right? But they do not understand the context in which the business they operate, and so it is important for you to school yourself, educate yourself.
And even on that question, on that pillar, I wanted to ask, so for example, at the general manager level, when you're in Rwanda and you're saying we need to change our distribution system so that we're not going to Uganda. Yes. Who else within your ecosystem do you need to get approvals for to make that happen?
So you have to go to the supply chain director. The supply chain director is not a salesman. Supply chain director is somebody who knows how to produce product at scale and do it at costs that Unilever accepts, right? You then have to sit with them and understand their worldview.
And then convince
and then convince them why this Uganda route is not making sense. There's hapo hakuna kazi ya sales.
Even though his output affects your
100%.
KPI.
100%. So I can give you department by department.
Yes.
Finance, right? We were getting paid in Kigali. We sell in Rwandan francs, right? Rwandan francs in Kenya mean nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to move that money every day. And you have to move it from Rwandan francs into Kenya shillings, right? Because our head HQ is in Kenya shillings, right? So I actually had to go to a bank and negotiate with the bank. We set up a rate, right? And you also do not want a rate of 7.5 now, 9 tomorrow, etc. You want to at least have some form of predictability that when I bring you 100,000 francs, I will get 10,000 shillings. And I can do that over and over again, right? So I'm sitting with the head of Equity Bank, the country manager of Equity Bank, and saying, as a matter of fact, Unilever doesn't have an Equity Bank account. Equity Bank is the biggest bank account. So our bank here was Citibank. So we had to go to Citibank here and tell Citibank to open an account with Equity Bank in Rwanda so that we pay Citibank because we do not want to go through the transition process of multiple bank accounts.
Yeah.
You're not a salesperson. You're a salesperson, yes, but you just need to be somebody who is able to understand FX rates and how banking systems work, right? Marketing, we had to set up campaigns from a consumer perspective. First of all, you have to go into people's houses and understand what do they do, how do they cook. Because if Royco is supposed to be used for cooking, then I have to come into your household and understand what is the food that you most eat. Here, we know that 7 out of 10 homes will have eaten ugali last night. And they'll have eaten ugali with a stew that would have needed Royco, right? Would have been beans or sukuma wiki. Whatever it is, Royco is useful, which is why Royco is a big brand here because there's a big prevalence of what the stew is. So what if the stew there doesn't need...
Yeah.
You get, right? So you have to go and understand what that is. When you shower, how do you oil yourself?
Yes.
Do you have oily skin? Is the sun too hot? Therefore, do you need more Vaseline or less Vaseline, right? Again, by the time you're then selling a brand to them, you have to have done that from 10 steps behind.
There's multiple stakeholders.
So it's multiple stakeholders, which is what I think good. So today, some of the best CEOs I know, and Peter Ndegwa is a good example, right? The reason he's a really good CEO is because he has gone through that cycle. And today, as a business person, he's able to see the entire ecosystem and spectrum. And because his ultimate job is to sell, but by the time he's selling, he knows all these other disciplines. So he's able to then make good quality decisions and be able to bring the right insight to decision making.
Okay.
That is what sales is.
Okay. That's really good context.
Let me give you one final question.
Yes.
If you're a commercial director for a business, right? Any business worth its salt, you're no longer responsible for actual selling the brand. If you think about it, you don't actually do any selling yourself as a commercial director, right? What are you responsible? You're responsible for systems and people and training. So your job is an aggregate of the system. So your output is an aggregate of every single part of the system, right? So you need to be able to understand the system, and that system is really a business system that happens to provide sales as an output.
Okay, so two things left for me to ask. The first one is, again, as a person who again has worked in sales, commercially driven roles where there are very specific targets you're hitting. How have you managed meeting your targets and not meeting your targets? If you've been in situations where you've not met your targets, how do you what's that relationship like for you?
Show me a salesperson that has met all his targets and I'll show you a liar.
Yeah.
I think, right? If you're doing work worth your salt, you'll always give yourself a number that's bigger than you should. And ideally, they should always be... Sales targets are meant to be achieved, but they're not meant to be easy to achieve, right? So you don't want it to be too big, then it demoralizes you and the team. But you don't want it to be too soft that you then really just wake up and you're just doing business as usual and you get to the number. So I think... number one is just being able to have a good understanding of that number, that target. You should be able to break it down into its component parts and be able to break it down and say, my target is $1 million, whatever, dollars, euros, whatever the number is, 1 million. I want to take that 1 million, and you need to be able to break it down correctly and say, what is your base on that number? If you did nothing and you just showed up, how much of that is base? And if your base is 700K, then that 300K on top, you need to be able to understand what do we have to do to live up to get to that additional 300K. So if you have a target and you should have a very clear way of getting to it. you need to know what should I do in inputs to be able to achieve that number. So which is the whole point of target setting. Target setting is a forecasting discussion. Forecasts should be a reflection of opportunity in the market. Make sense? So which is why when you teach sales and commercial directors, we actually usually have a forecasting conversation where we go through what does a good forecast look like. Therefore, what does a good target look like? What does a good target setting practice look like? Now, have I been in a situation where I haven't met my target? Hundreds of times, right? As a matter of fact, as a salesperson, some of my worst, for example, we wanted to get to 10 million in Kigali. We got to 3.5, right? That's a missed target.
Yes.
The target, but now we know because as a matter of fact, 10 million was a mathematical impossibility because the size of the categories we were playing in was not that big. So there wasn't that market to sell 10 million euros worth. So the market needed to grow. Yes. Yeah. So I guess as long as you're learning from every time you don't hit your number, ask yourself realistically, without too much English.
Yes.
Why did I not hit this number?
Right.
What could I have done differently? And then try and push it next time.
Okay. Last question. We talked, you mentioned a little bit about where like your money is right now in terms of you having take up even a fractional position just so you can, have some income coming in.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, where your money is right now, where your money institution is right now?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the fractional work that you're doing as well.
So where is my money right now? Yeah. So remember, I have a dream of being a serial entrepreneur. Yes. I want to set up multiple businesses and make sure that the businesses are thriving. I have learned that you want to set up one good, well-run business and make sure that you before you take money out of it, it's going well. I only take the surplus out of it. So I'm not paying myself a salary from the work we're doing. What you're doing is that we are really just pushing through,
reinvesting,
which is why I then took on a fractional commercial director role, so I can be able to feed my family without having to eat into my businesses now. And I'll talk about Green Hat shortly, but a lot of my money now is tied up in CCE and KSS naturally, because I do have a big belief, and it costs a lot of money to apply for these university charters, so we had to pay for it as well. So that's where. And I also just, it helps that I live in my own house.
Yes.
So a lot of, we had to do a lot of work to just clear that out and make sure that I'm not having to spend a lot more money there. But a lot of my money now is tied up with investing. We're still pushing investing behind KSS. Okay. We want to buy a few companies as well, just because we have realized that there is a lot of training on the front end. There's a lot of technology that's needed on the back end. Assessments, for example, are very expensive, and you want to make sure that you're doing good quality AI-driven assessments. So we are thinking of purchasing we are on the last mile of buying an assessment company, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's all on. We're building this engine. And then let's see how that goes after.
Right. And where you're doing your fractional work right now, what kind of business is that in now?
Yeah. So everything I've told you about my life has been very FMCG, right? Fast moving consumer goods driven. One of the things that I give myself the pressure of doing, because if I run the member body for salespeople, there's two things that have to be true. I have always to be selling, because then effectively, what business do you have to be running this member body if you're not selling?
Yes.
And if I am a sales trainer, I always have to be selling as well at a high level myself, because then I walk into a business and I tell you, this is what I am doing.
Yes.
Then it is based on real lived experiences. So I needed to make sure that post my KO role, I don't just go in and become a trainer who doesn't actually sell.
Yes.
So spoke to this lovely organization called Green Hat, which is where I'm in Green Hat. And Green Hat is an out of this world box thinking. Let me explain. So these guys have 750 acres of land in Kilifi. Kilifi is a lovely, beautiful place. By the way, if you haven't been to Kilifi, you should go.
I haven't been. But
you haven't been?
I haven't been.
So Kilifi is sort of one of those really still virgin places in this country, right? You know what Nanyuki was 10 years ago?
Yes.
Or what Naivasha was 20 years ago. Right. It's nice, it's coastal, but it's not Nyali or South Coast that is flooded with people. So it's still very lowly populated. It's beautiful because you still have lovely, beautiful beaches and creeks, etc. The environment is not spoiled the greenery still exists. They still inhabitant trees, mangroves, and baobabs.
Right.
The people are still the city life has not gotten to them yet. So what I'm trying to describe, and I hope you can feel it, is this very nice, warm community of people that live in this really beautiful place.
Yes.
And so what Green Hat did, because they had the land, they figured we could set up a real estate business here, but let's do it differently. Instead of cutting down these trees and setting up high rises of hundreds of thousands of apartments, let us do it differently. Let us create an eco town. So they're creating an eco town, which is a town that is in the middle of the bush somewhere. 750 acres of land. We are only going to develop 30% of it. So 70% will still be left to nature. Only 30% will be developed. And what you're developing is like really coastal architecture property. So today we just launched in December what you call Tuli Gardens. Tuli Gardens are 3-bedroom duplex for 9.95 million. So it's a really affordable but really good quality property. It's sitting on an acre of land, and we have 64 of those, only 64, right? Because again, we are very much concerned about the density. Because we do not want to go and create another CBD. Right. And so what do I do there? I'm the commercial director. So I'm fractional in the context of, and I want to popularize this term of fractional commercial directorship. Yes. Because if you're a business that cannot afford a full-time commercial director, doesn't mean that you have to go and hire a cheap salesperson. Then you never get to your objectives. Take on somebody who's experienced and pay for a fraction of their time, right? And because you probably don't need all that firepower, you don't need 5-6 days of my time. You probably need a day to work with your teams and to give directions, etc. And then if you have a good team to implement, you should be up and running. So I look after sales and marketing there. I have been doing that since September last year. So we are now building a sales team. We're building a marketing team. We are building a process as well. We're setting up their CRM. So we're doing the actual good work of selling. And we are then hopefully participating in building what I think is a really good, lovely place to live in Kilifi. Yeah. So if anybody would like to get property, please talk to us.
Yeah, we'll leave the comments in the description box as well.
Oh, you will leave thank you very much.
The
links,
IG tag and the
etc.
links and all those things, and also have a thing that will come on the Alan or Joseph will do the thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Asante sana.
Anyway, you're very welcome.
We appreciate that.
But man, thanks so much for coming on to Financially Incorrect. I'm really glad we had this conversation. I think it was really enlightening.
Yeah.
And you were able to really give us good, rich detail about how sales work in the sales space and giving us your personal money story as well.
Yeah.
Incredible story.
Asante sana. And is this parting shot?
Yes.
Okay. So 2 things. One is well done to you guys. I actually do not know Financially Incorrect was linked to it. I thought it was just 2 guys. Microphone, just doing it. So hearing the thinking on what you guys are trying to do. Naturally, it's very obvious for me to just go into. But what are we doing? How can we sell it more? etc. So if you ever need help, let me know. But secondly, thank you for the work you're doing. To be honest, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next Friday on the next episode of Financially Incorrect.